Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dairy Raid, and today we are continuing our deeper dive into the key aspects of the Jeff Grimes offense and how it is going to be applied to the Badgers in 2025. And continuing on that theme, today we'll be looking at the vertical passing game. Right after the wide zone, the first thing Coach Grimes always brings up is the vertical passing game and the ability to get chunk plays at any time, any down and distance by pushing the ball downfield. But I think one very key thing that comes up a lot when discussing the vertical passing game is a lot of people vision essentially the chuck and duck offense. We're just sending everybody deep and we're throwing the ball up on a wing and a prayer and hoping we come down with it. Well, the vertical passing game, there's a lot more to it than just sending everybody deep. There is a core philosophy behind the concepts that take a wide range of routes and targets, passing zones, and encompasses them in a single philosophy. So that's what we're going to take a look at today. We're going to talk about what is the vertical passing game, how it's going to be set up, and then we're going to take a look at some examples of Coach Grimes running some vertical passing plays at Kansas. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what could be carried over from 2024 and brought into the 2025 offense. Because like we said last time, Coach Grimes is quite a collaborative play caller. And if there's some good things from the air raid, he's going to take it. And he's going to implement it, and he's going to find ways to make it successful in his offense. So that's what we're going to do. So next up, we'll get into the classroom, and we will take a look at the vertical passing game in more detail. Okay, so back in the Dairy Raid classroom, and so let's talk about this. So the vertical passing game, it is more, like I said in the opening, it is more than just let's send everybody deep. You know, everyone just assumes that we're going to get in some sort of 4 wide or 5 wide look, and we're just going to send bodies upfield and forcing the defense to play everything over the back half. While that is part of it, what we're trying to create with a vertical passing game is stress on the upper half of the defense. It's not about just sending everybody deep, but it is forcing defenses to have to divide 52 and a half yards of width with as few players as possible without giving up holes. And that's really hard to do. So a good vertical passing game is going to stress the defense vertically, obviously, but it is going to create horizontal stretch. Where have we heard that before? We create horizontal stress by setting the width of the formation and forcing the defense to cover everything in between. And that can be done with a variety of different routes, and that can be done in different layers. And we can build up a passing play very similarly. So we can start here with the traditional, the 4 verts play, and we'll work through this and talk about how we're going to create stress when on the outside it looks like we could just play 4 over the top. Okay, for the first obvious stress with this type of passing game is you have to accommodate the entire field. And we just talked about that. With a 4 vertical, not only are we forcing the cover sideline to sideline and beyond the deep zone, but we are forcing them to high-low vertical routes, because if we don't high-low these vertical routes or put our defensive backs in position to cover both above and below, you are creating space. And we can create that kind of space with tag routes and with reads. So if we're looking at the traditional air raid 6 play, our outside receivers are going to release vertical, and then they're going to have landmarks. And when they reach those landmarks, if they are capped above the landmark, when they get to that landmark, they're going to break down. Okay? If they are not capped at the landmark, then they're going to continue to run. So here we create a high-low stress on one defender. And that's what we work on the outside. If we take the interior receivers, then what we're trying to do with the interior receivers on a play like this, whether it be two receivers, two tight ends, a slot and a tight end, doesn't matter, is what we are trying to do is we're trying to isolate, divide, and isolate. So what do we mean by that? We are taking our number one weapon in the interior look. And for us, the Badgers, that's going to be Tretch right there. And we're going to put Tretch in a position that the defense is going to allow him to run open. So how are we going to do that? We're going to take our tight end and we're going to work deep. And then we're going to bring it back over the middle on a post. We're going to stress here and we want to force rotation. We want to force that in a 4 deep zone or a 2 deep, whatever. We want to stress inside, and the positioning of the boundary safety is not going to be able to get underneath this ball. He is going to have to play over the top. And so what we can do here is we can manipulate coverage. By doing so, we can allow a player like Tresh, we're going to isolate him by working him inside again and then back over the top. Or working him inside and then underneath to find a soft spot, running a dig route, whatever. This is not necessarily a read. This is manipulating coverage. And that's what we're trying to do in a situation like this. If we're just running the traditional air raid 6, then what we would be doing here is this is our leverage point. This is our point. If our safety is capped over the top of our tight end, he's going to sit down on the hash or inside. And then Tretch, or our slot receiver, whoever it is, he'd be getting in, probably running more to the hash mark, but we could be playing him wide. Inside release, getting vertical. And then based on the leverage on this safety, we're either going to run over the top or, again, we'll bang it back to the post. We'll work opposite of what we're going to have here. If we're leveraged here, break down, we want to hit the post. If we're not leveraged and we keep running, then we'll keep running out here as well. Okay? So, creating space horizontally by formation, creating space vertically by the release, and then manipulating, isolating, and finding soft spots in the defense as we work downfield. Again, this could be from reads, or it can be just a play call where we're running double post, we're running curl post, we're running dig post, whatever. It could be built in. We're going to isolate our biggest threat on one defender or less if we get lucky with that kind of situation. All right. So this is the basic idea of the vertical passing game. It is not to just chuck it upfield. It is to manipulate the defense into giving us one-on-one matchups that we know we can win. and it's working to create situations where we have catchable balls in win-win situations. Because to allow plays like this to develop, now here I'm setting everything with landmarks at 10 yards. We got collegiate quarterbacks, receivers, and offensive line. These landmarks can be moved to 15, 20 yards downfield. That still takes time. So if we're going to invest this much time in a ball going that far downfield, and then we want to put ourselves in the highest completion percentage situation as possible. So that's the core philosophy behind the vertical passing game in terms of route structure and spacing. Obviously, benefits to the vertical passing game can be felt throughout the rest of the offense by forcing the defense to play the entire field up and down and sideline to sideline. You're going to lessen the box. By lessening the box, you're going to create holes for the run game. And then when we incorporate a vertical passing game like this with the wide zone running game, we're creating two folds of stress horizontally and vertically. We're getting the horizontal and we're getting the vertical stress from the passing game. We're getting the horizontal stress from the run game. And that in turn is going to create a lot of things over the middle, intermediate, etc. So it is a nice balance to the wide zone. It is a nice balance to a rushing attack. This is something we kind of missed back in the day when we ran the quote unquote spread pro style power offense, is we didn't do enough to take the top off the defenses. And sure, every now and then we had a tight end or a receiver who could run a route every now and then, push the ball downfield, but we never stressed defenses enough to force them to respect that we could take the top off of routes and the top off of the defense. So what I'm hoping to see this year is defenses respecting the formation, the philosophy, and the execution, so our offense can create more opportunities and not have those opportunities taken away because we have such a small toolbox to work with. All right, so next up, we're going to get into the film. We're going to look at a few examples of some down the field vertical concepts that were ran at Kansas that I could see that would be applicable to the personnel we have at Wisconsin and going forward this season. All right, so let's take a look. All right, so here we are with the film. Let's take a look at it. We're looking at how the vertical passing game was built up at Kansas, and then as we're going through it, we can start talking about how maybe some of these plays would be utilized with the type of players that we are going to have in the Badgers offense this upcoming season. Let's take a look. So here, starting out against Arizona State, starting out in an empty 3-by-2 look, going to motion the back into the backfield, and then we're going to run verts on the outside. We're going to run a curl, and there we create our isolation. Okay, we're isolating our best receiver out here, and we're making sure that he's not going to get safety help over the top, both by the movement and the eye candy of the running back, moving into the backfield, manipulating linebackers, and then the curl route here by the safety to manipulate the safety. And then we're going to isolate a receiver here over the top, and if that's not there, we're either going to have a curl or we're going to have a safety valve here from the slot receiver running a shallow cross. So we see right there, route's already made. The flare, the bubble here, is causing the flat defender to stay down low. So here, looks like we're running cover 6. So we've got cover 2 on this side. We've got cover 4 on this side. And we're manipulating the coverage. So we're setting 2 verts at the safety. Wherever he reacts to, we throw the other. We got a hole shot fade right here over the top. Easy money ball right in there. Nice job of manipulating coverage by the formation, and we've got a lot of options on this play. We're sending 4 to the formation. We're outnumbered defensively, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the way that we're doing it is we've got multiple eyes on the running back, we've got multiple eyes on the slot receiver, and nobody has their eyes on this wide receiver. Easy play that manipulates the coverage. All right, so next up, here we got against Houston. Again, eye candy with a little bit of motion. Just that little bit of movement there to see if we can manipulate and see what the coverage is. We're going to send our tight end who's lined up as a wide receiver. I can see a couple guys in our offense filling this role here. This is basically their fullback. And I think we got a couple guys going to run this. So, again, by formation, we're isolating the receiver here one-on-one on this side. He might have an indie route on this. It could just be a straight go. But we're running, again, a drag underneath, so we have a secondary option. This is where our eyes are looking first. We're looking for the release of this burst. So we're going to get a outside release that's going to break to a corner here. We're going to get a flat, and then we got our crosser. Eyes, step up in the pocket, and we can create space on the outside over here. So, again, by the route structure, we are sending 2 players vertical in the formation. By the structure of the route, we're essentially getting 3 defenders on 1 receiver, and then we create a one-on-one matchup. We don't have options at the bottom of the screen because they do a pretty good job here of defending it. Okay, that's a pretty good turn here by the corner. But we have 3 players isolated, or 3 players on 1. So we look for our underneath receiver. It's not there, but as we're checking up, we got space. We chuck it over the top. And was that actually a catch? Yeah, it was. But it's all set up by the formation, and it's set up by the route structure, where we only have to send 2 balls vertical, or 2 routes vertical, but the defense has to respect the entire formation and the entire field. And we have options. Okay, next up here, again against Houston. Okay, motion to a 2x2 set. 11 here, Grim. This is our Tretch player. All right, so here we're taking advantage of the defense overcommitting over the top. Now, what I like about this is they're rotating. They're only going 3 deep. We're sending 4 deep. There's automatically going to be some space. And I think we get a holding penalty, but we're not going to talk about that. But we're just hunting for space. So the tight end here is releasing wide. He gets bumped. So he has to work back to the outside. And now he's just hunting for space. Gets to his landmark at, see, he's about 20 yards downfield by the time he gets to his landmark, and then he just sits down. This isn't scramble rules. This is finding his space in the defense. Top of the screen, we're running switch release and then back in. I like that route. I like this route right here. So we're sending Grimm here in the wake of the wide receiver, and then he bends back to the inside. Safety's ready for it, though, and that's what Daniel sees, is his eyes working there. So now what do we do with the tight end? We occupy the space left by the safety rotating over the top. And pretty wide open there and gets a nice chunky yards. All right, next up against Kansas State. 2x2 look here. And vertical, isolating the outside receiver by threatening inside of the nickel in a man situation. He's running with the number 2, threatening the safety and not allowing him to run over the top. Here, the ball is capped. So the quarterback throws it low. There's no landmark on this, so he's not breaking down as a particular a read here. We're throwing the ball short on the back shoulder in a position where the capped DB can't come back on the ball. But again, we're isolating the outside receiver by the route of the number 2 receiver. I will say on this, not very good routes run on this entire play. I mean, top of the screen, wide receiver just gets jammed to hell. He can't get off the line of scrimmage. Tight end gets off, but he's just running a flat route. He's not going to be open because the number 1 receiver out here can't get off the ball. So this is all we can do. And luckily, we put ourselves in a position where the safety can't help or we can't high-low, and that allows us space to throw the ball on the back shoulder. Okay, next up again against Kansas State, going to use motion as a coverage indicator. Nickelback goes with him. Most likely we got man. So we're motioning from a 3x1 to a 2x2. And then we're just going to run the post. So we're going too high with man coverage. And we can do this by dividing this safety. So if we're going man underneath too high, we work the wide release. We get the nickel in the wake of the safety, and then we just bang it to the post. I mean, we're just climbing right away, and we're reading outside to the safety. We've got a step both horizontally, and we've created space that we can throw the ball over the top. On the bottom of the screen, by running the tight end wide to the hash mark before he goes vertical. I mean, he's running straight out, so this safety has to respect it. The linebacker's running with it. That's fine. He's eye candy. And we're forcing that this safety has to stay over the top over here. He can't help over the middle of the field. Honestly, in a situation like this, coverage-wise, that linebacker could run on that safety all day. Or on this linebacker. No, all day. And that linebacker's got him covered. But the spacing of the route creates the ability to manipulate that safety. If this ball is thrown with a little more oomph, and we can see here that QB gets a little bit overextended, so he can't really get his hips behind the ball. I mean, this is a touchdown. But still turns into a pretty nice game. All right, next up here against Iowa State. And we got a situation. We got a 3x1 condensed look here at the bottom of the screen. And we just got a little burst release. And this is one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of things. So we start here with the movement of the running back. This is creating eyes in the backfield, both here and here. We have a corner blitz. Corner's calling it out. He knows he's coming. Safety isn't paying attention. He's focusing on the running back. They want to bring pressure, or they want to bring this mug look, and they want to drop out. So they want to take care of underneath, because what they're expecting is kind of that route that we saw earlier, most likely. I bet you they're expecting underneath and some kind of wheel, so they want to be able to manipulate that and take that away. But eye candy and spacing allows us to manipulate this safety, corner blitz, and we're off to the races. But again, look, I mean, the way this is set up, look how many, like down here at the bottom of the screen, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defenders occupying 2 receivers. We've got the tight end running a hard seam over the middle, occupying 2 linebackers, a linebacker and a nickel. If that's a linebacker here, it's probably a linebacker because of the system that Iowa State's run. Okay, and then we're dividing a linebacker, a corner, and a safety over the top of this wheel. And it doesn't matter what kind of bluff look that they give here. They're trying to drop out underneath, but nobody has their eyes on the wide receiver out here at the top of the screen. A little bit of eye candy, but we're stressing the ball downfield out of this condensed look, and it isolates our single receiver. And then we're caught in a situation where they send a corner blitz, even if they don't. Even if he runs with this, I like our chances. He's not going to get any help because we've manipulated the coverage here at the bottom of the screen. But easy money. All right, next up here, again against Iowa State. Okay, moving guys around, seeing if we can get a look here. We're only sending three routes into the formation. We're leaking the tight end late. And this is just 3 verts. No play action. The corner here gets caught with his eyes in the backfield. Maybe because he's expecting running back to flare out of the flat, but most likely just looking at the release of the safety here at the bottom of the screen, he's expecting help over the top. Why doesn't he get it? Because we stress him inside. This safety is wrong. Whatever route he picks in this situation, he's wrong. We're reading from the top of the screen to the bottom, and we're going 1, 2, 3. Top of the screen, don't like it. We're already gone. Pre-snap, peek, don't like it. Okay, post. As soon as the safety goes to the post, we're going to hit the whole shot. So we're stressing vertically, but by formation and alignment, we can still create holes. Okay. Iowa State is rushing 3. They are dropping 8 in the coverage, and yet we can still manipulate receivers open by formation and by horizontal stress. All right, we're gonna look at one more here, and then we're gonna look at some other film from Wisconsin from last year. We've got a 3x1, 11 personnel nub look, little play action. And so what we're doing here is we're sending that 3 vertical look, but we're starting up from one side of the field and we're bringing it back to the entire field. All right, so our tight end, our number 3 receiver here at the top of the screen, he's releasing outside. He's going to bend it back in, again, occupying 2 safeties and occupying the backside corner. We're isolating because they're blitzing, they're rolling down from this 3 high look, which is something that you see from Iowa State with this 3 high tight look. They're going to roll down, and now we're splitting this safety. We send two at the tight end, and we just sit in the space in between. So we got a crosser, we've got a curl, and then we got a skinny post, and we pick poison. Corner out here has good leverage. He's going to take away the skinny post, but there's nobody to take away the curl. Step up, find the spacing. I mean, just look at how much space there is for this slot receiver to get open. And we have three defenders on one tight end. And we manipulate him open. Boom. Right over the ball. Easy money. All right. So we're going to stop there. That is some looks at some vertical concepts and how we use formation, route spacing to develop open receivers down the field by manipulating the defense. Will we see all these concepts this year? I think so. We'll see variations of these concepts. Again, you look at the type of players that Kansas uses. I see analogs in the Badger roster that fit a lot of these guys. But, like I said in the intro, I think Coach Grimes is going to take a lot of input from his incoming coaching staff. And we're going to look at some potential plays from the 2024 Badgers that we might see in the 2025 offense, even though we are technically not running the air raid anymore. So let's take a look at it. Just two or three little clips here, and we'll see how this fits this philosophy. All right, so we are back with some examples from the 2024 Badgers offense that could easily fit within this vertical passing game philosophy. So first up, we've got against USC, a little bit of play action, but we're running Y cross with a shallow coming from the backside, the spiked kind of crosser from Bryson Green. But what we're doing here is, again, we're isolating our speed, our one speed receiver we have on the formation. And we're only sending, again, three receivers into the route, but two receivers are occupying four defenders. And all we have to do is win the one-on-one matchup, which in this case we do with a little bit of pressure on our face. One of the better balls that Braden Locke threw all season. But we create options. If defenses come downhill to stop the crossing route, obviously we've got the deep cross here coming across the formation. Or if we overcommit over the top, we've got our underneath route that will be leveling off at about 10 to 15 yards as it gets across the formation. So we create options. But a route like this is set up by manipulating coverage away from our best wide receiver. All right, so next up against Rutgers. This is your Air Raid 6. This is the four verts that every Air Raid team runs. This is the four verts play that was created in various forms of the West Coast offense, was brought into the Air Raid. Dirk Cutter has also used this at the NFL level as one of his key passing concepts. So, like we talked about in the opening, we run, we get to our landmarks. If we're capped at our landmarks, in this case, our two inside receivers are capped at the landmarks, we sit down. And by doing so, we sit right in front of the safety. We sit right in front of the safety. Now, again, we're isolating outside receiver. We throw the ball up, and we let him run underneath it. Since we have no help, as long as we put it in a good position, that either only our guy is going to come down with it, or it's going to either skip out of bounds or land over the top of him. Simple concept. This should not be a very difficult route to read. Know where your landmark is. If if the defender's over the top of you, we sit down in the landmark. And in this case, we took the time to just put it up. All right, last one we're going to take a look at here. This is against Oregon. 3-by-1 look. And we're going to run mesh underneath. We're going to run wheel out of the backfield. And then we're just going to run the crosser again. And we look here at the bottom of the screen, Tretch running. This isn't necessarily manipulating the safety, but what this is doing is running interference. Because this safety right here has to respect the ball coming across the formation. And we put the ball in a really nice spot here to get it over the top of the Oregon defense. We create stress underneath with the mesh. We create horizontal stretch with the stress with the mesh and the wheel. And then we divide and conquer over the top. Spacing. In this situation, really, when Braden gets ready to throw the ball, it's 4-over-1, and we're 1-on-1 here. Put it up in a high spot where only our guy's going to come down with it. That's a nice throw. So those are 3 examples of potential passing concepts from the Longo air raid that could easily translate into the Grimes wide zone vertical passing game offense. All right, so there is the vertical passing game. It is a nice complement to the style of run game that Coach Grimes wants to bring into the offense. And the play selection, the formations, etc., are less important than the balance created by the horizontal stretch of the run game and the vertical stretch of the passing game. There are plenty of plays, and we've given many different examples here of using that vertical philosophy. So it just comes down to how it best fits the players that we're going to have in the upcoming season and how it's going to best fit as a complement to the running game. All right, so next up in this series, we're going to take a look at the marriage between the vertical passing game and the wide zone, the run game in general, and that's play action. We're also going to look a little bit at RPOs, which I know is something that's going to carry on from last season's offense. And we're going to look at how play action creates even more stress on defenses and how it can fit in as another form of stress that our offense can create for opponents this upcoming season. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.